Fear the Walking Dead is now done, which means it's time for my definitive ranking of all of the seasons of Fear the Walking Dead. Some of these rankings may surprise you, or not. I don't know. Either way, let's jump right in. So as you can see, this is the list. We have in the S tier of this, the GOAT. The GOAT! Of Fear the Walking Dead, because I want to make very clear, Fear the Walking Dead does not have any seasons that are better than other TV shows. These are the best of just Fear the Walking Dead. So anything in S tier is just in competition with itself. It's not in competition with some of the greats like Game of Thrones when it was in its prime, or even The Walking Dead's canon series. Fear the Walking Dead is just in and of itself in its own little nutshell. So that's the S tier. The A tier is pretty good. Pretty good. And that's exactly what it means. Pretty good. B tier is average at best, and that's because it's average at best. There's nothing really to complain about, but there's also nothing really strong about it. It just kind of exists and it's there. C tier is the wasted potential tier. So it actually is probably going to sit in a similar category as the D tier, dog shit, but in a little bit of a different way, because maybe the idea of the season was good on paper, but the execution itself was not. So it was a terrible season, but it had potential to be better. And obviously this is going to be based on my enjoyment and all of that stuff, but I just have to point that out. This is going to be its own category, wasted potential. That's the C tier. And then as mentioned, D tier is dog shit.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
And that means it's dog shit. And newsflash, there's a couple on this list, so let's jump right in, starting with Season 1. And Season 1 really had a pretty tough job to do, you know? It introduced Fear the Walking Dead, which was a new show in the Walking Dead universe that was not based off of the comics, so it was kind of this ambiguous thing that stood on its own away from the canon series, and it had a pretty tough job to do. It had to fill the shoes of the canon series. And honestly, I think it lived up to it. I think it was pretty good. Pretty good. It was just, you know, it was a nice setting to see. It was an establishing season, and most establishing seasons of any show aren't going to be its best seasons because they have a job to do. They're trying to tell the story of a show. So any one of them is most likely not going to be the best season of its show. I mean, you look at even The Walking Dead's main show, its first season, I would never call that an S-tier season. It's obviously up there. It's probably an A-tier season in its category in and of itself, but I would never go out on a limb and say that it's the S-tier, just because, again, for the fourth time, they have a lot to do with the season. This one was really unique because it followed Nick Clark and Madison Clark, Nick being a drug addict who had seen walkers for the first time, and no one believed him because the outbreak was still new. And overall, I love outbreak stories in an apocalyptic setting. I love when they show that. The Walking Dead's main series never showed that, so having a series in the Walking Dead universe that was all about the beginning of the outbreak was truly awesome. And not only that, the environment itself was awesome. Seeing a show set in Los Angeles at the start of the zombie apocalypse, just a cool environment to be in. I mean, if you're walking down like Hollywood Boulevard and you see zombies, or you're just walking through the beautiful landscapes of Los Angeles, it's really a great place to shoot a zombie apocalypse. It's awesome. And then the dynamics, of course, that were had between Nick as well as Madison really made it in this season. There was just a lot there to love. I mean, again, not an S tier. I think this season was lacking a bit of substance in the Fear the Walking Dead universe. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't really find its footing yet, but you could tell everything was there. Like, this season, you could tell they came in swinging, they had an idea, and I love that. And with that being said, they really followed it up in a pretty similar way with Season 2. Season 2 is also pretty good, and I don't think it really is above that, but it's close. I would say it's the closest out of the Eric, whatever his name is, Dave Erickson or whatever, I forget his name. The main showrunner, it's his name's drawing a blank, but whatever. Out of his 3 seasons of the show, I think this one really stayed in the same lane as Fear the Walking Dead Season 1, it just excelled a little bit in certain ways. Like, again, it hit on a lot of the big things that we liked, or at least I liked specifically about Season 1. The environments were great. The storytelling was interesting. It was with different characters. We got the introduction of Strand. We got a storyline both on a boat as well as in a Mexican hotel this season. There was a lot there that was really unique. Travis this season was also awesome. He was a great character just in general. I loved him. I loved his dynamic with Madison and the group. I loved his storyline with his son and everything that happened there, and he became a badass this season. But again, I'm referencing realistically, I haven't seen this season in a long time, but the highs still remain in my head from this season, like them being on a boat, Victor Strand as a whole, everything that happened with Travis. Those things really made this season strong and something that I remember. I mean, it's really good when a show can have moments like that you haven't seen in like 8 years or however long it's been, and those things stand out. I think without a shadow of a doubt, that means it's pretty good. Is it the best? No. Have I gone to see it in a while to remember exactly everything that went down? No. So I think it sits here. From my memory of it, I thought it was pretty good. It, again, just like Season 1, told a unique story in the Walking Dead universe, and I give it a lot of credit for that. I think it did a good job at that. And then following up from Season 2 was arguably the best season of Fear the Walking Dead, and it's Season 3, and it's obviously the GOAT of The Walking Dead.
The GOAT! The GOAT!
Now, again, this is in a nutshell. So this is in the Fear the Walking Dead bubble. It's in that imagination. Okay, that was really cheesy. All right, well, Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead was, I think, the best season they had. It didn't necessarily start that way, and it kind of started off in a similar boat to Seasons 1 and 2. It was good. It wasn't amazing, but as the story went on, everything that we got was just masterful. I think one of the biggest things that held it back in the beginning as to why I said what I said is Travis's death. Now, the actor wanted to leave, so we had to work with that. We didn't have a choice in that decision. He wanted to go, so they had to honor it. So they killed him off, but they killed him off in the most just cringy, cheesy way ever that really, I personally think, like I say with everything in Fear the Walking Dead, I think it was immersion breaking. I didn't like what they did there, but that was about it. Other than that, we got the introduction to arguably the best Fear the Walking Dead character, Troy Otto. We got the story of the Otto family and the Gulch. We got the story of, I think it was like Walker or I don't remember his name. I want to say Skinwalker, but I don't think that was his name. The one guy, the Native American dude who it was his land and all that. That was a really cool story. I forget his name. I think it's like Walker or something. I don't know. But I loved that story. I loved everything at the Gulch. I loved all of the dynamics and everything there. This was the season to me that was like, okay, Fear the Walking Dead is actually a good story on its own. It just stands out. It's unique. It's different. It's not quite The Walking Dead, but it's good. It's comparable. It's serviceable. I could watch it. You know what I mean? This was that one season that actually nailed that in the head for me. And it's because it was just so strong. It actually felt like the story was doing what it initially intended on doing, which was being a story that divulged a crew into villains. If you guys don't know, that was literally the idea for Fear the Walking Dead. That's what the show was going to be before Ian and Andrew absolutely destroyed it. And this is where, and I'm just going to make a quick pause on Season 3, but this is where Fear the Walking Dead, I think genuinely, I really do, and I've said it in a ton of videos, but I genuinely do think Fear the Walking Dead was going to be like an origin story to the Whisperers. I genuinely think that's what they were going with. I can't say for certain. There's no true evidence to back that up, but I think there was a lot here that could have nailed the ground and foundation for that. But then the show writer left and Ian and Andrew took over. But this was the season that told me that that was a possibility. The story was good on its own. You could tell they were going a different direction with Madison because she was like not a hero, but kind of a hero, but you didn't know what she was. And I really liked that. Everything about this season stood out. And again, is it Game of Thrones level? Is it Shawshank Redemption? You know what I mean? No. Not at all. Not at all. But it was definitely close to being a contender for something that could be good. And maybe if it stayed on this path that it was on, it could have been excellent. We don't know. But is it the GOAT of Fear the Walking Dead? I think so. And that's really where the show takes just a dramatic turn for the worse, because everything else on this list is just, it's funny, guys. It's funny. So we have season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, and the hype for this season was at an all-time high. If you were around when this was on the air, this was an exciting time for many reasons. One, this story in season 3 was fantastic, and two, we had the crossover of Morgan Jones going onto this show, which was just incredible. It was so awesome. The idea that we were having a character bring that connective tissue to the universe, it was so exciting. It really was. It was awesome. It was a time to be in The Walking Dead. But that quickly went away because season 4 is absolutely dog shit. Now, I gotta say, and I want to make this clear, there are moments in every season of Fear the Walking Dead that are decent. There's moments, but maybe they're 5 minutes in an otherwise 8, 16 episode or whatever run. There's little moments, and there was a couple moments here that I did like. I liked, in the beginning of this season, I liked that we got Rick and we got Carol and we got those characters in Fear the Walking Dead, even if it was just for a second. It made the story feel connected more, and I liked that a lot. I'm glad they did that. But that's really it. I guess I liked Althea's introduction in this episode, even though I hated Althea, believe me. And I know that may be an unpopular opinion in the universe, but I just didn't like her character at all. But maybe her introduction was cool, like with the MRAP and all of that. Maybe a bit of John Dory was cool throughout the season, but that's it. And I like John Dory, but that's it. That is it. Season 4 was fucking trash. What did we get this season? Oh, we got the killing of Nick, who is the best Fear the Walking Dead character outside of Troy Otto, but I think he's better than Troy Otto, you know what I mean? Like, he was the best character. He was like the most pivotal character of the show, at least I thought. But we had the killing of him because Frank Delane wanted to leave, which is fair. He wanted to leave the show, but we had his death. Then we had Madison's death. And then the show completely changed. And not that I have a problem with Morgan Jones, because I genuinely don't. Like, I actually like Morgan Jones a lot as a character. It's just, when you have Nick Clark and Madison Clark leaving the show for Morgan Jones to come in, it immediately ruins everything. It makes what could have been something really cool with Morgan Jones coming in really bad right away. It immediately stained everything. Charlie fucking sucked this season. She just sucked. She sucked in general. I hated that character. The actress was fine, but I hated that character. Just everything there bothered me. The stadium story, I guess, was decent, kind of. But clearly, you could tell Ian and Andrew just came in and severed the entire show. It went from a really cool villain backstory, as you could tell, to the Morgan and Friends, but I don't know what the fuck and this it is, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like they were just kids. Like, it felt like children writing a show when they came in. And that's what this started. Season 4, yeah, the first half wasn't awful, but the back half was the worst television I think I've ever seen in my entire life. That villain was awful. Like, awful is an understatement. That was the most cringy, disastrous villain I have ever seen on TV, and it's no exaggeration. It was terrible. I don't know how much more I could say about it. There's not much, and there's not much I even remember because it was that forgettable. It was so bad. So bad, and it's easily deserving of the dog shit tier, as is mostly everything, as you're gonna see. Mostly everything on this list is dog shit, but we'll get to that in a second, because up next, we have season 5, which, dun-dun-dun-dun, dog shit! Hey! Oh! It's a terrible fucking season. I don't remember anything that happened this season. I genuinely don't. The only thing I remember, I think, from this season was a bit of the CRM connection with Isabel and Althea, I think. But other than that, like, what the fuck was this season? These characters just stood around. This was the Morgan and Friends season. These characters just stood around saving people. They wandered around a fucking forest, saving kids, flying a plane, the beer bottle balloon. What the fuck was this season? Like, again, It's crazy. I literally do not understand for the life of me how Ian and Andrew got this job and maintained it in this season. This was the one where it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are you in Hollywood? I'm like, oh my God, this season was a piece of fucking work. It was so bad. Like, just a cringy nightmare. Absolutely abysmal. I don't know what else to say about it. It was easily the most forgettable season, like by far. I couldn't tell you what happened. Maybe the Isabel thing and that's it. It was so bad. I need to go back and rewatch this show to remember some of the little tidbits, but this one was just unspeakably bad, which is crazy. So we had 2 bad seasons in a row, like 2 dog shit seasons in a row. And then I think Ian and Andrew clearly had some backstage talks about how much they sucked, because I'm pretty sure there were reports that they hired ghostwriters going into season 6. And whether that's true or not, it seems to be, because season 6 was the GOAT of Fear the Walking Dead.
The GOAT!
Season 6 just stood out. It really did. And it still fell victim to some of the things that seasons 4 and 5 did. It felt like the Morgan and Friends show again. It felt like cringy dialogue in certain moments. But what this season did right was have a clear, focused narrative. Morgan Jones was back to being the Morgan Jones we loved. Maybe he wasn't clear mode or whatever you want to call it, but he went back to a very concise vision. He went back to a strong protagonist that we liked. And the story with Virginia and all of that, and Morgan really taking on a different role this season, it worked. It worked really well, and it showed some form of proof of concept for the idea that Morgan Jones and Fear the Walking Dead could have worked if you told the right stories and you told them well. But it didn't work out that way for seasons 4, 5, 7, and 8. It just didn't, and it's crazy. But this season was just, it was unique. The beginning half with Virginia was awesome. It was really great to see Morgan's revenge arc after getting shot in the back half of season 5 and all of that. And then even after that, the back half was really good. So good, as a matter of fact, that they made a miniseries about it later. But the back half was awesome. The story with Teddy, he was definitely... Virginia was a pretty good villain, too. I did like Virginia for the most part, but Teddy was a very good villain. I actually genuinely enjoyed him. And that whole storyline was just fun. It was great. The idea of this crazy dude having nukes in Texas was just cool. It was a cool idea, and it showed proof of concept that a nuclear story could have really worked in The Walking Dead's universe. We're going to get into that, believe me, with season 7. But the whole idea was great, and the execution this season worked. This show, in my opinion, really suffers from good ideas on paper, but really poor execution. But this season was the opposite. Season 6 had a good idea on paper and had strong execution. And I think for that, it fits in the GOAT of Fear the Walking Dead. Again, in a nutshell, this is not for other TV shows. This is just for Fear the Walking Dead. Because if season 6 was stacked up against any other season of TV, I think it would be at the bottom of most lists. just being honest. But for this show, it was strong. It was good, and it was a contender for some of the best in the Walking Dead universe. And I know that kind of backtracks what I just said about it not comparing to other shows, but I hope you're getting what I mean by all of this. It's good for Fear the Walking Dead. It's not great in general, but it's good for Fear the Walking Dead. And yeah, okay, so season 6 set up a really good intro to season 7. It really did. Teddy's whole story was awesome. Him setting off the nuke at the end of season 6 just automatically opened up a really good idea. And the trailers for season 7, based off of what we got in season 6, looked so strong. For the first time, it felt like Fear the Walking Dead was back, and I didn't see an ending in sight. I remember a lot of people at this time were talking about how Madison could be returning and all of that stuff, and that was the only, negative at this point, because people were like, okay, let's write off season 4 and 5. They sucked. Season 6 was great. It's finally putting Fear the Walking Dead back on track. The trailers looked awesome, like I said. And then this thing dropped like a wet fucking fart. This thing was dog shit, and it should go in this category. But I'm going to actually put it in the wasted potential category. And now, let me just be clear. This season, I could easily duplicate and just as equally put in dog shit, because that is truly where it belongs. But I specifically made the dog shit tier item because of this season. The proof of concept was just, or not the proof of concept, the concept, I should say, was awesome. A nuclear fallout story in The Walking Dead, in the zombie apocalypse, is absolutely awesome. And not only that, the idea of Victor Strand becoming a villain after being wishy-washy since his introduction in season 2 is awesome. The story concepts work on paper, but on the actual page where they wrote the scripts, this was easily, arguably, the worst season of Fear the Walking Dead in some ways. I have a definitive worst, and we're going to get to it. But season 7, at least, it had a good idea on paper, but it was just told so bad. This season was so boring, and there was so much unnecessary shit in it that could have been fleshed out. It just was not good. And honestly, even though it was more recent, this one was obviously, I think, the most forgettable season of them all. What happened this season? They just ran around again like season 5, did nothing at all in a really gorgeous landscape. And that's the one thing I will say about Fear the Walking Dead overall. The atmospherics for the entire show are very solid. They really are. Everything here looked great, but the story was goddamn boring. It was just so bad. The writing was cringy, and the idea of Strand as a villain, like I said, worked on paper, but in execution didn't. He just became annoying. Everything here was annoying. It just sucked. I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said about this season, and I don't remember a lot of it. I honestly think most of the time I wasn't paying attention this season because it was that bad, but there was nothing good that came out of this season. Nothing. Again, visuals aside, because visuals actually worked this season and all of them. But besides that, it was fucking dog shit. But it was wasted potential because the idea on paper was extremely strong and it could have been awesome. It really could have. Maybe if they tweaked a couple things like kept Teddy alive or made Strand a stronger villain that wasn't annoying or just a ton of little things. Maybe if they changed those details, it could have been really good, but it wasn't. It just wasn't. And that's a shame. And after all of the crap that we got from seasons 4, 5, and 7, we were really hoping, all of us, I know, we were all hoping that it would get a little bit better because they brought Madison back in the last episode of season 7 and it was cringy, it wasn't good. But we were hoping, okay, maybe they'll go in a cool direction with it, but they didn't. Season 8 of Fear the Walking Dead is, I personally think, the worst season of the show, hands down. This season, I'm going to put it at the top of my dog shit list, like at the very top of my dog shit list. This season was atrocious. It just straight up was obviously, as I said, the worst season of Fear the Walking Dead. Absolutely fucking terrible. There was nothing good to say about this season. It just, okay, again, similar to season 7, on paper the idea was okay, I guess, but it wasn't even that good. This season suffered from so much that I've talked about in many videos. As a matter of fact, if you want to see my review of season 8, I'm going to link it up here. So I'm not going to go too in depth, but everything did not work this season. It felt rushed. The writing was the worst of the entire show. The villains sucked in the first half. And just everything about the first half was bad. Mo sucked, in my opinion. The traveling around and the teleporting didn't work. Where were half the characters? How did they meet up in the same spots? The story with Padre, it was all just, it was not good. It was not good. And that's just season 8A. Season 8B was just as fucking bad. The only positive I would say about 8B, it's two things. Is Troy Otto, even though I, as you guys know, wholeheartedly disagree with Troy Otto returning this season, at least I liked him. Like, I thought Troy Otto himself, he kind of made the back half, because Daniel Sharman is such a charismatic actor that even if they resurrected his character, it was still done well with him because I think he's just great. He has just great screen presence. So that was good. And then the final episode wrapped up the show. Kind of good, kind of, but that's it. Other than that, it was so bad. Season 8B suffered from a lot of the same things that Season 8A suffered from. Rushed writing, really bad scripting, poor acting across the board, and just overall, like, just everything felt rushed, incohesive, and goofy. Everything was fucking goofy. This season was just a fucking train wreck. It really was. It was a really piss poor way to close out the Fear the Walking Dead story. And it was, look at this. I mean, look at this really quickly. Just if you look overall, you have season 7, 8, 4, and 5 in the shittiest category. Because season 7 really is a dog shit season. Like, it could easily go in the dog shit category. And as a matter of fact, I kind of just want to leave it here for now. But I wanted to highlight that it is wasted potential. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to leave it in dog shit because it is dog shit. So look at this. Ian and Andrew were responsible for 8, 4, 5, and 7. And as well 6, but again, it was ghostwriters this season, so that doesn't even count. That's a pit of despair. If these people have jobs in other shows in the future, run for the fucking hills. Like, seriously, just get away. Do not watch that shit. Because these guys made absolutely the worst show out of something that had really strong potential. If you look at this, again, 1, 2, and 3, I think his name's David Erickson, was the original showrunner. He made great seasons. Him and, what's his name? Robert Kirkman. They made really great seasons of Fear the Walking Dead, and then this random one up here. But they made really good seasons, and then Ian and Andrew just absolutely ruined it. I do not know what AMC was thinking by hiring these buffoons, but they should never get writing credit on anything else ever again. I don't know how they had writing credit to begin with. These people wrote, like, 3-year-olds got hired for the job. They were like, oh, Madison should go here, and then he should do this. Oh my god, it would be great to see on screen. Like, that's literally what it felt like watching. It was just, the whole time, it's like, what, who, what, how, and then, oh, God. Guys, that's the list. I mean, look at it. The proof is in the pudding. This show just sucked. It just straight up sucked. And I'm glad it's over. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. I want to know your tier list down in the comments. Do you agree with this list? Do you think there were other elements that I missed? Let me know. I would love to start a healthy conversation down right below the like button, and we could talk there. We could create a whole dialogue. That'd be great. And also, if you want to learn more about the rise and fall of Fear the Walking Dead, be sure to check out this video right here. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.